I used to believe my marriage was unbreakable. We had two beautiful kids, a home filled with laughter, and I thought that was enough. Until the night I found out my husband was cheating with my assistant. That betrayal broke me in ways I didn't know I could break. And just when I thought it was over, he begged me to raise his mistress's baby. That was the moment I realized sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself again. This is my story of pain, strength, and rediscovery. I used to think I had it all, a career most women only dreamed of, a husband who made me laugh, and two kids who gave my life purpose. My days were a blur of morning chaos, bedtime stories, and late-night case files. I was Sarah Thompson, a 41-year-old corporate lawyer in Boston, married to Mike, an architect who everyone called the nice guy. For years, I believed in that image. We had the house, the family dinners, the weekend road trips, the kind of life people post about on Instagram with #blessed in the caption. But pictures lie. It all started unraveling quietly, like a thread you don't notice until the whole sweater falls apart. Mike started coming home late, first for client dinners, then for late projects. I didn't question it much. I was busy too. But then my assistant, Jessica, began working the same late hours. She was young, bright, ambitious, the kind of woman who reminded me of myself 10 years earlier. I'd mentored her, trusted her, even brought her into my family. I never imagined she'd be the one to destroy it. The day I found out still burns in my mind. An anonymous text appeared on my phone saying, "Check on your husband and your assistant. They're closer than you think." I wanted to dismiss it as a prank, but then I saw Mike and Jessica's overlapping schedules, the late-night meetings, the unreturned calls. I didn't want to believe it until I saw a message pop up on Jessica's phone one morning at the office. "Can't stop thinking about last night." It was from Mike. In that moment, the woman I thought I was, the wife, the mentor, the believer, died a quiet death inside. That evening, when I confronted him, Mike didn't even try to deny it. He said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. But betrayal doesn't sound like weakness. It sounds like choice. I packed a bag that night, left the house, and drove with tears blurring my vision until I found myself parked by the Charles River. The city lights reflected off the water like shattered glass. I sat there until sunrise, gripping my wedding ring so tight it left a mark on my palm. By morning, I'd made my decision. I hired one of the best divorce attorneys in Boston, Amanda Lewis, a woman with the kind of quiet fire I needed. Together, we built my case piece by piece. Mike tried to paint himself as the victim, claiming I neglected him for my career. But Amanda dug deep and found everything: the messages, the hotel bookings, even a credit card charge for a necklace he'd given Jessica. When the verdict came, the judge granted me full custody of Emma and Lucas. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled, like I'd been holding my breath for years. We moved into a new condo downtown, smaller but ours. I poured my energy into the kids, into making them feel safe again. Therapy helped. Emma started smiling more. Lucas stopped asking why Daddy didn't live with us anymore. I never spoke ill of Mike, no matter how much I wanted to. I wanted my children to see strength, not bitterness. Still, every night after they fell asleep, I sat by the window and stared at the skyline, wondering how love could vanish so completely. 4 years later, I still don't have an answer. Only the lesson that sometimes the hardest kind of strength is the one that comes after everything falls apart. It had been almost 2 years since the divorce was finalized, and for the first time, life finally felt calm. The kids were growing into their own. Emma was 12, strong-willed and compassionate, while Lucas, now 10, had inherited Mike's artistic streak. I had learned to breathe again, to trust silence. My mornings began with coffee and quiet instead of arguments. I was still at the same law firm, now a senior partner, and though the work was demanding, it kept me steady. My friends said I looked lighter. Maybe I did. I'd built walls around my peace, thick, unbreakable ones. I thought I had closed every door that could lead Mike back into my life. But life has a cruel way of testing the walls you build. It started with a text message from an unknown number. "Sarah, it's Mike. Please don't block me. I need your help." I ignored it. The next day, another one came. "Jessica's gone. She died giving birth." For a second, I didn't even process it. Jessica? Dead? I felt a coldness in my chest. Not grief exactly, but the eerie stillness that comes when you hear something you weren't ready for. I sat in my office staring at the screen until the words blurred. The next text came minutes later. "Her baby's alive, a girl. She has no one else, Sarah, please." He called that night. I didn't answer. He called again and again. Finally, I picked up, more out of exhaustion than compassion. His voice was hoarse, shaking, the voice of a man stripped of pride. He told me the baby's name was Chloe. She was born premature but healthy. Jessica had named him as the father on the birth certificate, even though the DNA test letter proved otherwise. "She doesn't have anyone," he said, crying. "I can't take care of her. Sarah, I'm broke. I'm barely holding myself together. You're the only one who can give her a home." I laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. "Mike," I said coldly, "you cheated on me with that woman. You lied to our kids, and now you're asking me to raise her child?" He stayed silent for a long time before whispering, "She's just a baby. She didn't ask for any of this." That line hit something inside me, something maternal and reluctant, but I shut it down fast. I said, "She's not my responsibility," my voice flat. "You broke this family, and I'm done cleaning up your mess." Then I hung up. For days, I tried to shake the conversation off, but Chloe's name lingered in my mind like a ghost that refused to leave. A week later, Emma came home from school unusually quiet. She dropped her backpack on the couch and said, "Mom, is it true we have a baby sister?" My heart stopped. I asked her where she'd heard that. "Dad told us," she whispered. "He said her name is Chloe and she doesn't have a mommy." My throat tightened. Mike had found a way to break in again, not through me, but through them. That night, both Emma and Lucas sat on my bed asking questions I wasn't ready for. If she's not really our sister, then why does Dad say she needs us? I didn't have a perfect answer. I just told them the truth. Sometimes people make choices that hurt everyone. Chloe isn't your sister by blood, but she's a part of a story we don't have to live again. After that, things spiraled. Mike started showing up outside their school, waiting near the pickup line, handing the kids little notes and photos of the baby. Emma cried one night, saying she felt bad for Chloe, but didn't want to see Dad anymore because he makes everything confusing. I wanted to protect them, but every move I made felt like walking through glass. Eventually, I contacted my lawyer again and filed for a restraining order. Mike retaliated by suing for visitation rights, arguing that I was emotionally damaging the kids by keeping them away from their half-sister. The irony was painful. The same man who'd shattered our home was now claiming I was the one hurting it. The courtroom felt colder this time. I wasn't trembling like before. I was angry, tired, determined. My attorney laid out the facts. Mike was unemployed, drinking heavily, and had no stable address. His finances were a wreck. The judge didn't even need to deliberate long. "Petition denied," she said firmly. Still, even as I won again, I didn't feel victorious. Because this time, there wasn't just bitterness. There was sadness for Chloe, for my kids, for the mess none of us asked for. After the hearing, Mike stormed out of the courthouse, yelling that I was heartless. Maybe I was. Maybe heartbreak makes you that way. But I knew one thing for sure. Love isn't about rescuing every broken piece someone else leaves behind. In the months that followed, I poured everything into rebuilding the calm he tried to destroy again. I changed my number, blocked his emails, and told the school not to release any information to him. Therapy helped the kids understand boundaries, that compassion doesn't mean sacrifice, and forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone back into your life. Emma stopped asking about Chloe. Lucas started sleeping through the night again. And me, I learned to live with the ache of knowing a child out there had my ex-husband's eyes, and that somehow she was tied to my story, whether I liked it or not. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that baby. I imagine her growing up somewhere, maybe in foster care, maybe with someone kind. I hope she's loved. I hope she never learns how messy her beginning was. But she won't learn it from me, because I made my choice to protect my peace, to protect my children, and to finally stop letting the past write my future. The court order should have brought me peace, but peace doesn't come stamped with a judge's signature. After winning the second case, I thought I'd finally be free of Mike's chaos. I had the restraining order, full custody, and the moral high ground. But at night, when the world went quiet, something inside me wouldn't settle. Maybe it was guilt or exhaustion or the echo of Chloe's name. I'd see her face in my mind, not the real one, but an imagined version of a baby who'd never asked for any of this. And for the first time, I started questioning whether doing the right thing always felt this wrong. Mike disappeared after the trial, and part of me was relieved. The other part, the part that once loved him, worried about where he'd gone. The kids asked less and less about him, but I caught them sometimes scrolling through his old photos on my phone or whispering about Dad's baby. Emma, now 13, grew quiet and guarded. She'd stop mid-sentence sometimes, like she was afraid of saying something that would hurt me. Lucas, always sensitive, began wetting the bed again. When I asked his therapist about it, she said, "Children often internalize conflict. They don't understand that love can exist even when trust is gone." I nodded, pretending I understood. But truthfully, I didn't. I had spent my whole life fighting for control, in the courtroom, in my home, and now control was exactly what was slipping through my fingers. Therapy became a constant. Every Thursday afternoon, I sat on the same beige couch, talking to Dr. Michelle Carter, a therapist who looked too young to have seen the kind of pain she helped people carry. At first, I hated the sessions. I'd cross my arms and analyze everything she said like it was a deposition. But over time, her calm persistence started to chip away at me. "Sarah," she said once, "you're not just angry at Mike. You're angry at yourself for trusting, for forgiving, for still caring." She was right. I'd built my identity around being the strong one, the unbreakable woman who could out-argue, outlast, out-survive. But strength has a cost. I didn't realize mine was emotional isolation. Emma's 13th birthday was when everything cracked again. We had a small party, just family and a few of her friends. The house was full of laughter, pizza boxes, and pink balloons. When the guests left, she hugged me and whispered, "Mom, Chloe turned 2 last week." I froze. "How do you know that?" I asked. She hesitated before saying, "Dad posted it online." I felt my throat tighten. "Did you talk to him?" She shook her head quickly. "No, but I looked. I just wanted to see her." For a moment, I didn't know whether to be angry or heartbroken. I went to my room, closed the door, and cried for the first time in months. Not because I was jealous or betrayed, but because I realized how deep the wound still went, how even distance couldn't erase connection. In the following weeks, I tried to talk to Emma about it. We sat on the couch one evening, teacups in our hands, the city lights flickering through the window. "Honey," I said gently, "it's okay to care, but you don't have to carry everyone else's pain. She looked at me, eyes full of a maturity that broke me. But Mom, she said, you care about everyone, even Dad. I didn't know how to respond. She wasn't wrong. Despite everything, a small part of me still cared, not for the man Mike had become, but for the one I thought I knew, the one who used to make our kids laugh, the one I thought would never break us. Maybe healing wasn't about erasing love. It was about learning to live with it, quietly, without letting it consume you. Then one Sunday morning, a letter came in the mail. It was from the county social services department. They wanted to confirm whether I had any intention of claiming legal guardianship of Chloe since Mike had been unreachable for over 6 months. The letter was polite, procedural, and utterly devastating. I sat there, hands trembling, reading it over and over. Part of me wanted to throw it away. Another part wanted to drive to wherever that little girl was and see her, just once. But I didn't. I folded the letter, tucked it into a drawer, and walked to the kitchen where Emma and Lucas were arguing over pancakes. "Everything okay, Mom?" Emma asked. I smiled, that practiced lawyer smile I'd worn for years. "Yeah," I said softly, "everything's fine." But inside I felt the storm building again, quieter this time, but deeper. A storm of grief for what was, for what could never be, and for a baby's name I'd never say out loud again. That night, I sat by the window, city lights flickering against the glass, and finally let myself whisper the truth I'd been avoiding for years. I was tired of being the strong one. I was tired of fighting, tired of pretending, tired of holding everything together with invisible stitches. Maybe that's why, in that silence, I finally did something different. I prayed. Not to fix anything, not to erase the past, but to find peace with it. Because for the first time in years, I realized healing isn't about justice. It's about surrender. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to let go.
Months passed after that letter, but it stayed in my mind like a whisper I couldn't quiet. Some nights, I'd wake up wondering where Chloe was, who held her when she cried, if she had someone to sing her to sleep. I told myself it wasn't my concern, that I had done my part by protecting my own kids, but motherhood doesn't compartmentalize easily. There's something cruel about empathy. It sneaks into your heart even when you've locked every door. I started dreaming of her, this faceless little girl with curls like Emma's and dimples like Lucas's. I'd wake up crying, and then I'd hate myself for it. I didn't want to feel this way, torn between resentment and compassion. I wanted peace. I wanted finality. Life, however, doesn't stop for broken hearts. My firm gave me a major case that demanded every ounce of focus. It helped distract me, even saved me for a while. My days blurred into meetings, filings, and courtroom strategy sessions. I'd leave work exhausted, barely noticing the world outside. But every time I saw a little girl with brown curls in a park or at a grocery store, my chest tightened. One day, I saw Emma scrolling on her phone, looking at a picture of Chloe again, this time from a news post shared by a foster organization. "They're looking for permanent homes," she whispered, her eyes wet. I felt my breath catch. There she was, 2.5, wearing a yellow dress, holding a stuffed rabbit. She looked so heartbreakingly alive. I wanted to reach through the screen and hold her. That night, Emma asked something that shattered me. "Mom, if I were Chloe, would you want someone to love me?" I stared at her, speechless. My daughter had a way of cutting through everything, the lies, the anger, the guilt. "Of course I would," I said quietly. "Then maybe she deserves that too," she said, voice trembling. It wasn't a plea, it was a mirror. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't about Mike anymore. It wasn't even about Jessica. It was about a child who had become the ghost of my unfinished forgiveness. I knew I couldn't raise her. My life, my heart, and my children's stability couldn't hold that weight, but I could make sure she was safe, loved, and never forgotten. The next morning, I called the number on that old social services letter. My voice shook as I explained who I was, and the woman on the other end, her name was Lydia, sounded gentle but surprised. Chloe was recently placed with a foster couple. They're good people. She's happy there. I didn't ask for details, just thanked her and hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at my coffee growing cold, feeling both relieved and hollow. For days afterward, I caught myself smiling at small things. Lucas laughing with friends, Emma painting again, sunlight spilling into our living room. Life was moving forward, quietly, the way healing does when you finally stop fighting it. A few weeks later, I received an envelope in the mail from an unknown address. Inside was a short letter written in neat cursive. Dear Miss Thompson, I'm Lydia from the foster agency. I wanted to let you know that Chloe has been officially adopted. Her new parents adore her. She's healthy, joyful, and loved. I thought you'd want to know. My hands trembled as I read it. The words blurred through tears I didn't even realize were falling. I went out to the balcony, feeling the Boston wind brush against my face. The city lights shimmered below, the same lights I'd stared at years ago after leaving Mike for good. Only this time, there was no bitterness, no rage, just quiet gratitude for the pain that shaped me, for the strength that rebuilt me, for the peace that finally found me. That night, I gathered Emma and Lucas on the couch. We didn't talk about court orders or betrayal or lost years. We just talked about love. The kind that doesn't always look like fairy tales, the kind that sometimes means letting go. I told him Chloe was safe, that she'd found a family that loved her, and I saw relief wash over their faces. Emma leaned her head on my shoulder. Lucas took my hand. For the first time in years, our little family felt whole, not because we'd erased the past, but because we'd accepted it. As the city outside glowed under the night sky, I whispered a small prayer. Not for Mike, not even for myself, but for Chloe, that wherever she grew up, she'd never doubt she was wanted. I used to believe healing came when justice was served, when pain was avenged, when the story made sense. But now I know healing comes in quiet moments, in forgiveness you give silently, in the laughter of your children after years of tears, in learning to love again without fear. Mike never came back, and I never went looking. Maybe one day he'll read about Chloe's new life and feel something close to peace too. But for me, it's already here. In the sound of Emma's laughter echoing down the hall, in Lucas's sleepy voice saying, "Good night, Mom," and in the stillness of knowing that I survived, I healed, and I finally let go.